Welcome to Bruce Hurwitz Presents Meet the Experts. I'm your host, Bruce Hurwitz of Hurwitz Strategic Staffing. You can find us on the web at hsstaffing.com. I hope you consider us for all your staffing, career counseling, and professional writing needs. Momentarily, I will be joined by Marc Ruiz. We will be discussing real estate investing. Meet the Experts is sponsored by P&K CPAs. P&K is a full-service accounting firm. They provide accounting and consulting services to businesses ranging from startups to small and mid-cap companies to nonprofits as well as high-net-worth individuals. Contact them today for a free consultation at info@pk-cpas.com or call them at 973-882-8810. They will be happy to be of service. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Bruce.
It is my pleasure. Please take a moment or two and introduce yourself to our viewers.
So we're here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Our specialty or our niche is affordable housing. That ranges from, we do new construction, build to rent space. We build duplexes, quads, small multifamily. We also do a lot of Section 8, lower income rentals, remodels. We've been doing construction since 2012 and running rentals since 2015.
I actually know a bit about that. I have one client who is a property manager who works solely in that sector. And what I don't understand is what this has to do with real estate investing.
What do you mean?
Well, you provide affordable housing.
So we provide affordable housing.
Okay. And how does real estate investing fit in with that?
So in the affordable housing space, the reason that we chose affordable housing, and we did it for cash flow. I like cash flow, I like recurring income. So on a rental standpoint, affordable housing, you have the largest audience of people who are able to purchase or use your product. If it's a rental, if it's a new first-time home buyer, if you're investor purchasing the product, the more affordable it is, the more people who can buy it from you. I've always kind of joked, it's like when you fish the bottom of the barrel, it really doesn't matter how far the barrel falls. We're already at the bottom. So we're pretty, it's recession proof. When you talk about Section 8 rentals, for example, we're funded by the government. The government never stopped printing money. So when COVID, everyone else was not getting paid their rent. We didn't miss a dime. In fact, because of our working with affordable housing in that space, we made money because we knew how to use the charities and the Section 8 in the system. So not only did we maintain, we increased.
Now I understand. You explained it. Now, I had a gentleman on some time ago who talked about land investing, where you would purchase land, wait 30 years, and sell it.
That works. It takes a while.
Yeah, it takes 30 years. Now, that's not the same thing. Here you want instant gratification.
No. And there's got to be a mixture. I started off my career as a flipper. So we run construction. I actually built a construction company to support my flipping habit. So we buy houses, remodel them, and then reintroduce them into the market as new affordable entry-level housing. And we made quite a bit of money doing it. In fact, we made so much money that Uncle Sam got involved, and we started buying rentals to offset that income. And then looking at rentals, purely from a financial standpoint, when you look at the smaller properties, the lower income, typically you can get in these things for under 100,000, or depending on where you're at. I mean, in Oklahoma, we can buy and remodel these houses for less than 100,000, and then they rent proportionately. You look at a cash on cash or your debt service ratio, you make more money on a lower value property than you do, say, a $200,000-$300,000 house in the suburbs that rents for $2,000 to $2,500. So from a return standpoint, we make better money. Now, there's more risk, but we make better money.
Where's the risk? Because you said before the government is backing it.
It's more of a logistical, the tenants, if you're renting Section 8, there is a small portion of the population, and not that I can narrow this down to being a Section 8 problem or even a low income problem, because some of the nicer houses, higher income houses, people have destroyed and trashed just as much. But historically, you have potential conflict with people who receive subsidized housing that do not appreciate what they have. That makes sense?
It makes sense.
Uh,
And I'm sorry about that. We had to stop for a moment. You were talking about small properties and low income.
Small properties, low income, just on a cash on cash return, return, you make better returns. You also, it depends on what your objective is. If your primary objective is cash flow, I lean towards the smaller properties because you're getting more cash on cash. Now, if you're looking for depreciation, appreciation, and tax benefits, the middle class suburb $200,000-300,000 houses will give you more of that, but you're not making as much on a monthly basis. So it kind of depends on if this is your primary or if this is just a place to put money to grow consecutively with your other income.
I had an acquaintance who was very excited. His wife was pregnant with twins. They were living in New York and decided to move to New Jersey. He, with a smile on his face, said he never thought he'd have to ask a real estate agent about schools, but now he was asking about schools. And he found, or they found, the house of their dreams, so to speak. And then he came over to me, sort of accusing me, but with a smile on his face. He said, "Why didn't you ever mention to me anything about the crazy property tax in New Jersey?" New Jersey has the highest property tax, I believe, in the country. I may be wrong, but if it's not number one, it's pretty close. What does property tax do to a real estate investment portfolio?
Well, not good things in Jersey or California. In Oklahoma, it's one of the reasons that we have such much investing in Oklahoma. I mean, I'm biased because I live here and it's my backyard, but we are traditionally more affordable than most of the country, being here in the plains or the middle of the country. So our property taxes in proportion are really affordable. I mean, it's on the new construction duplexes that we're building that are going for 375,000. The tax is on those or under 4,000 a year.
Yeah, that's the New Jersey in me has to laugh at that. I don't know what it would be in New Jersey, but you could probably maybe even add a zero to the end.
I would imagine so, but you're also probably not going to buy new construction property for 375,000 in Jersey either.
No, you're not. Who pays the property tax?
Property owner.
The property owner. But
yeah,
doesn't that factor into the rental, the price for the rental?
I mean, you need to factor it into your numbers, and you have a couple ways of accounting for it. If you escrow it if you have lending, a loan on it, and you escrow it, it comes out of the monthly payment. They pay it at the end of the year, and you don't have to worry about it. The way that it works in Oklahoma is they submit in November, they give you a bill that's due January 1. And then you have a grace period until I think end of March. Then they start penalizing you. And then they'll carry it for 3 years. At 3 years, they'll auction off the property. So, the other way, and what a lot of investors do, most owner occupants for smaller investors escrow it because it's easier. But if you're getting a number of properties, you just pay it at the end of the year. You just factor it into your operating expenses.
How do you know if a property is worth investing in?
That is a very subjective question. I mean, number one, does it make money? Number two, are you comfortable with that type of investment and the amount of the return and the time it takes to get the return? And also the property itself. And one of the reasons we lean heavy new construction is everything is A, under warranty, and B, you shouldn't have any major capital expenses for the next 10 years. Because, your day-to-day renting, it's when, you get down the road and you have to replace big ticket items that it really eats into your cash flow. So, your utilities, your heat, your air, your electricity, your plumbing, your roofing, those big ticket items are things that you need to make sure they're taken care of. So we prefer new construction because you don't have to fix anything other than tenant related maintenance. And then depending on what it is and who's at fault, you can bill that back to the tenant.
When I've been working with the client I referenced earlier, some positions were for security, some positions were for maintenance, and some to be the property manager. And you would have somebody who didn't have to make the repairs, but knew how the repairs were supposed to be made. You had to have somebody who understood, in this case, the Section 8, but let's just say billing in general, and also how to evict someone legally, obviously.
Obviously.
So when you invest in a property, if you're investing in low-income housing, there's a lot you have to know.
There is a lot you have to know. It is not complicated by any means, but very cumbersome. There are details, there are procedures. Working on housing and working with it's like any other government entity, and it is run as such. So, it is in your interest either to do it in mass, where you can create a system and navigate theirs, or work with somebody who is experienced in doing that. Now, we, as investors, anything less than 50 is really a hobby. 50 or more, 50 to 100 is where it's really sustainable and you can afford to staff it. If you have a handful of rentals, you can hire a property manager, but you're probably going to be more involved in what you want to be. And at that point, how much of if you save the money by doing things yourself, what are you costing yourself in time?
So volume is part of the investment portfolio. When you're starting off, you have to think long-term. Don't think just, a duplex, think 25 duplexes.
Well, so one, there's safety in numbers. If you have 100 doors and one goes empty, it's inconvenient. You have a duplex and one goes empty, there's half your income and a potential of having to pocket expenses. Now, so the more basis you have, the less a turnover, a hiccup, or a problem hurts.
With the lower income, the Section 8 renters, What are the special needs?
I don't know that I would say special needs, but the process, it, if, let's say, I have rentals available that we accept Section 8 vouchers. So when we put out the rental listing, we list it as we accept the vouchers. And the way that it works is Section 8, Tulsa Housing, Oklahoma Housing, whichever program is issuing will issue a voucher. And it's kind of like, the old food stamps. It gives you a piece of paper that says we will pay X for Y. They turn that in, they give it to us, we fill out the portion, and then we make contact and turn it into the housing coordinator. The housing coordinator will process the paperwork. They will send an inspector to come out and process and inspect the property to make sure that it is safe and habitable, because believe it or not everybody believes in standards. Then once you pass inspection, they pay the agreed upon rent. You're on direct deposit every month, and they've never missed a payment. So it's a little arduous getting set up because it can take days or weeks to get through that process, depending on the volume of the agency that you're working with. But once you're in the system, it's clockwork.
I was laughing when you said not everyone believes in standards. Do you know what NYCHA is?
Not familiar.
New York City Housing Authority.
I believe that they've got a tough job.
Yeah. They spend their time counting rats and mold and holes around pipes and things of that nature. There's, slum landlords, slumlord.
Yeah, we work in lower income areas. We work in North Tulsa, which is across the tracks. And when you there was expectations and stereotypes for the people that lived in North Tulsa, and we followed the money in. It's like I looked at what we were making in south side of town and looked versus what we could make on the north side of town. So we started buying because we could buy incredibly cheap. I mean, incredibly cheap. And then we would go in and we believe everyone deserves a nice place to live, regardless of economic or environmental circumstances. So we go in and we gut them, new electrical, new plumbing, now I do this. The we reason is because we believe everyone should have a nice place to live. The me reason is I don't like maintenance, because if you try to maintenance or try to fix ups out of your cash flow, you'll starve to death. If you put it in the deal, because what we do is what we call the BRRRR. We would buy it with cash or hard money or investor money, remodel it, make everything new, rent it out, take it to the bank, refinance it, get our money back, and then we're making $350 a month on each one. And we did that a few hundred times. So you take those repairs, you do them up front, you amortize them over 20 years, 20, 30 years, whatever the length of the note is. And it's far cheaper than trying to fix things as you go.
How does somebody lose their right to live in affordable housing?
If they get evicted, or if they're in violation of the regulations, the rules, I mean, there's a long list.
Well, what about, don't they have to have a maximum income?
There are income requirements, limitation, household compositions. They have their own calculus of formula of who and how gets what. Most of it is single mothers with multiple children.
So if the mother marries, she gets
well, I mean, it may or may not, it would affect the housing benefits depending on his economic standards. However, what normally happens is they don't get married, they boyfriends live there, and the boyfriends are always my biggest problem. It's never the tenant. It's the idiot she's dating. And it does add a complexity to it because we deal with a lot of women and families.
And are you able to evict the boyfriend?
realistically,
Yeah.
we can ban them. We can not allow them on the property, but you know how far that goes. And ultimately, if to really get rid of him, you have to get rid of her,
And she,
unless she cuts them off. But
yeah. And I assume that that rarely happens.
um, I will loosely use the word rarely.
Really? Okay. Um, I always am reminded, and it's not a funny story at all. I got a parking ticket. And, it was whatever, 25 bucks. But it aggravated me because the sign was incomprehensible. They had changed the parking regulations and it made no sense. And I took a photo of the sign, and I went for the court date. And I'm sitting in the first row of the, I guess, gallery, and I'm wearing a suit and tie. Except for the lawyers, I was the only one wearing a suit and tie. And after a while, the city prosecutor, whatever he's called, city attorney, uh, asked me who I was. So I told him I'm here for and I handed him the ticket. And he said to me, "What are you doing? Why didn't you just tell me? I could have gotten you out of here in 5 minutes." Um, he said, just to explain it, there were so many tickets given out that shouldn't have been given out, that if the judge had seen the photograph, he would have had to order the city to cancel all the tickets. That I figured out when he said to me, "Look, you don't talk to the judge. You just nod and agree to everything, and I'll cancel the ticket." And that's what I did. And then when I left, I realized it. But anyways, I told him it was fascinating. And the most fascinating and tragic was man and woman. The man had beaten up the woman, and she said that she wasn't going to press charges. And he promised never to touch her again. She said that she believed him, and they left. And the judge and the lawyer said to the judge, I give it 6 weeks. She'll be back in 6 weeks. And he said, if she's alive, she'll be back in 6 weeks. So that stuck with me because I had never seen anybody a woman who had been beaten and yet stayed with the man. Now, how do you, as I said, I placed security people at affordable housing sites. How do you deal with security?
So, um, security on a larger scale property makes sense and necessity and more economical. This is going back to the safety in numbers and the volume. On individual houses, once they're occupied, it is the tenant's responsibility. During the time that we have possession of it, typically during construction, we keep everything boarded up. We keep it very tight, and like little things that you wouldn't think of. On the doors, instead of using the little screws that come with it, we use 3-inch screws. On the door jamb, we have a metal bracket that uh, goes around
Mhm.
the two locks, and then
Yes.
those are screwed in. And also it's braced on the door itself. So it's impossible to kick it in. That doesn't mean they won't break out the windows, because that has happened more than once. We used to, there was a time that we put alarms in all the houses, and I think that was overkill. And we deterred a lot of people, but just keeping the houses where no one could see them or easily access them has been our best prevention.
Mark, we're getting close to the end, so I want to share your contact information. And I want to thank you profusely for having joined me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having
One
me.
final question. Is
Okay.
there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish I had asked you? And if I had asked you, what would you have said?
That is such a loaded question.
Mhm.
You know, I find with a lot of people who want to invest in real estate is they think they can make a lot of money and that they can do it passively. And my first word, right, passively isn't a thing. I mean, somebody's working on it. Now, it doesn't have to be you, but somebody's working on it. So there's no real passive income. And, real estate, investing in real estate is not what you see on HGTV. It's not flipping this or flipping that or flip or flop or whatever shows are on these days. Those are very dramatized and choreographed. I mean, they're anyway. Investing in real estate is a skill set. Investing in real estate, it's like if you're going to go and get another job, or if you're going to go, if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, you need to be properly trained in what you're doing. It's not something that you can just step off after being a professional in whatever area that you're in and magically be good at real estate. There is so much education, due diligence, and there's not a wrong way. I mean, there's not a right way. There's a wrong way, but there's not a right way to do real estate. There's 100 ways to skin this cat. But I've also seen people, a tremendous amount of people who underestimate what they're doing, and they lose more than what it was worth. And then there's also that question is, if you take that same time and energy to learn how to invest in real estate and double down on what you're doing professionally, could you make more money? And I find that most of the time, if people just redirected their energy and get over the excitement of what might be new, they could do better off more financially. Now, if you want to invest in real estate, I suggest that you get your education and understand what you're doing, because it is a very volatile business that can make you a lot of money and also cost you a lot of money very quickly if you're not careful. And or finding a professional that understands and plays the market and work out a partnership or an investment strategy that works for both sides without complicating things.
Good answer. Mark, thank you again. I really appreciate this, and I am sure our viewers do as well.
Again, I appreciate your time. I look forward to chatting again.
I'm Bruce Hurwitz. Thank you for watching, and as always, please stay focused on success.